Okay, good morning or good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today for this next level webinar titled Moving Profiles and Data in Windows 10. This webinar is presented by one of our leading instructors here at New Horizons, Richie Morgan. My name is Brian. I will be your MC for the event, and all that really means that if you have any questions, please feel free to put those in the questions box on the right-hand side, and I can go ahead and relay those to Richie as he goes through the presentation, as well as follow up with him at the end. This webinar, as well as all of our next level webinars, are brought to you by New Horizons Computer Learning Centers. Can you go to the next slide, Richie?
Yeah.
So a little bit about New Horizons. We're a proven worldwide training provider with flexible learning solutions covering a broad spectrum of topics taught by our industry-leading instructors. You can see a few little points about us there. We have a large international network, and we have flexible integrated learning methods. I just want to let everyone know this, as well as all of our webinars as well, are recorded, and you can find those on our YouTube channel. We will also send out a follow-up email to all those of you that are on the webinar today with a link to that so you can go back and watch the recording at your own convenience. With all that being said, I would like to now introduce Richie so he can present for you.
Good afternoon, crew. Let me introduce myself, introduce what we're going to be going over, and then we'll get into the content. My name is Richard Morgan, Jr. I am a senior technical instructor at the Atlanta, Georgia New Horizons location. I've been teaching with them for about 16 years, 17 years now. Lots of good technical content. During that time, I've got a couple of good certifications: Microsoft Certified Systems Engineer from way back on NT4, Microsoft Certified Database Administrator with SQL Server 7, and all the way up, I'm Microsoft Certified Technology Specialist, Microsoft Certified Information Technology Professional, Microsoft Certified Solutions Associate, and Solutions Expert. Need to add those onto my slide, I guess. And a Microsoft Certified Trainer, which basically means that Microsoft gives me their stamp of approval. Go forth and preach the gospel of Microsoft. So that's what I do. I am a technology enthusiast. If you wanted to see a technology evangelist in action, that's me. I love working with just anything technology, and I love Microsoft stuff. They do a pretty good job putting things together, I think. The move to Windows 10 is new for a lot of folks. So we're going to do a lot of work with defining the various terms and capabilities of migrating and upgrading today, and talk about what's the difference between a migrate and an upgrade, and how do we make it work? How do we do that in a Windows 10 environment? We'll talk about when you have 1 or 2 or 5 machines that need to be migrated, what is the appropriate tool for doing that, and if you are going to be doing a large rollout of Windows 10 and you need to attempt migration on a larger enterprise scale, what would be the appropriate tool for that? I also have a little bit of time built in for some question and answer towards the end. But please do not let that stop you from popping your questions in at any time. If I'm going over a bit of content you're curious about, you want some more information, pop that question in. I'll be happy to answer whatever I can. Our lovely MC will be happy to pop those out to me if I can't see them. But again, that is what we're going to get into today, and hopefully show you guys a good time with this. So let's get into this. Who should be attending this? We're hoping that IT professionals, those folks who are integrated, interested in migrating content, user-related data, user-related settings from an earlier version of Windows up to Windows 10, we have some good information for you today. Why would you want to attend this? The goal, again, objective here, is to help you learn some simple profile and settings migration utilizing the LapLink utility, PC Mover Express, or learn some of the more automated and stronger profile and setting migration functionality available using Microsoft's UserState migration tool. So we've got a pretty good set of tools at our disposal. They're going to walk us through utilizing these, and I'm going to try and demo and show some of that functionality for you here. So the question then, to be or not to be? I like the little graphic there, but the idea is, am I going to upgrade or am I going to migrate? Now the trick is there are only certain paths available for both. There are only certain things you can do when you want to upgrade or migrate. So there are only specific locations that you can upgrade from. Upgrade is not as easy as migrate. Well, I guess we could judge that on a scale. Upgrade is a little less easy than migrate. Migrate is going to let you do a lot of things. Valid upgrade paths for Windows 10. If you're on Windows XP, if you're on Windows Vista, you're up the creek. You cannot upgrade to Windows 10. There is no valid upgrade path to Windows 10 from those OSs. But if you're on Windows 7, Windows 8, or Windows 8.1, those are all valid for upgrading to a Windows 10 platform. You can upgrade to a Windows 10 platform. Migration, on the other hand, you can migrate from Windows XP, Windows Vista, Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 8.1 up to Windows 10 with no issue. So migration up to that is going to be a possibility. Now, I went ahead and added, and you guys will notice, I added some little bit.ly addresses in here. There is a bit.ly Win 10 upgrade specs at the bottom of that. That is a shortened, I know it's not very short, so you guys can blame me for being a little wordy with my custom bit.lys. But that is a link to the actual upgrade specs from Microsoft on what does it take to actually do a Windows 10 upgrade. And they mention there, valid OSs for upgrade. Now, what do you get when you decide to do an upgrade? Well, an upgrade allows you to keep your existing hardware. It allows you to keep your existing application software. It just refreshes the operating system with the new operating system, keeps all of your user settings, all of your user profiles set up. Everything that's on the machine stays on the machine, save for the operating system. Now, this comes with a basket of good and a basket of bad. The good is you don't have to reinstall your applications. They're already there. As long as they are compatible with Windows 10, you should be good to go. That app doesn't need to be reinstalled. You've got it already there. That is the only way that you can keep your applications, is with a upgrade. It's the only way you can keep your applications. If you go with a migration, you have to basically do a clean install of Windows 10. And the only thing that you are moving from the old machine to the new Windows 10 machine, again, whether it's new hardware or existing hardware, the only thing you're moving over is user data, user settings. You will have to reinstall your applications. And I think I go into this a little bit further later on down the line. Note the little bit.ly at the bottom of this screen, Win 10 migrate, no wet. For those of you who are familiar with migration in the prior to Windows 10, the Windows 7, Windows Vista, Windows XP days, there was a tool called the Windows Easy Transfer tool that allowed you to accomplish migrations. The Windows Easy Transfer tool would allow you to make that migration. It was real easy. As a matter of fact, they sold it in a retail package with a USB cable that had USB-A on one side and USB-A on the other. You would plug it into computer A, you would plug it into computer B, it had a little node in the middle that did kind of a little crossover work. It would pop open a dialog on both machines and say, hey, is this the old machine or the new machine? You click on the button that says, this is my old machine. Is this my old machine or my new machine on the new machine? You click on the button that says new machine, and it immediately starts transferring that stuff. I mean, it was a great setup. It was a great feature. That is no longer available. Microsoft, for whatever reason, decided they're not going to play in that game anymore. So instead of producing a Windows Easy Transfer for this new version of Windows, I know it's a bad word in our industry, but they outsourced. They said, you know what, someone else has the tool already out there. We're going to let them provide their tool to you to make this happen. We're going to learn a little bit about that tool here in a second. But again, migration, whether you're using the Windows Easy Transfer replacement or whether you're using the more enterprise-ready functionality, is intended to take your user profile, user data from your old system and eventually get it into your brand new Windows 10 system, put these files and components in the right place, and your user then, when they log into Windows 10, they feel right at home. This, however, I'll make sure to indicate this, will not provide you with the applications. You are going to be responsible for making sure those applications get installed in your target Windows 10 location. So, 2 for 1.
Richie.
What does an upgrade to Windows 10 get you? Let's talk a little bit about that. If you're doing an in-place upgrade, you are taking an existing hardware platform, you keep your user data, you keep your user operating system settings, you keep those applications. And again, I say certain applications because applications that are not compatible with Windows 10 are not going to work when you end up putting Windows 10 on top of them. They will then just deactivate, and you will need to find an upgraded version of that application and install it, or a fix or a patch or something to make that application work. But certain applications are just not going to work in Windows 10, and we're going to have to find a way to fix that. But most of the other applications, we don't have to reinstall them. This also allows you to keep your old hardware. No new hardware required, as long as that hardware can support Windows 10. Now, luckily, the hardware requirements from about Windows 7 up to Windows 10 haven't dynamically changed that much. What would run a Windows 7 as a fairly recent, powerful, worthwhile PC will very easily run Windows 10. So you get to keep your old hardware, no new hardware requirements, fine. The end product, you get a brand new operating system. You get a brand spanking new, super hot, smoking operating system that'll be able to do what you need it to do. Again, though, and for those of you who have seen the reality of an in-place upgrade, there are certain missteps that might occur, that the operating system could become a little bit flaky because of what was already there. Problems that existed in previous OSs might be resolved with a new OS on top of it. It might be exacerbated with a new OS on top of it. So just be aware that that in-place upgrade option, the upgrade does provide you with the ability to not have to transfer user data out and then back in, not have to transfer user settings out. They're right there on the system, an upgrade, boom, you're done. On the other hand, a clean install, sometimes what is referred to as a side-by-side upgrade, is not really an upgrade. Generally, we reserve the term upgrade for that in-place, one single system, having Windows 8, now has Windows 10. That's going to be your upgrade. This method, what they call sometimes a clean install upgrade or a side-by-side upgrade, is usually going to incorporate migration, where I am going to copy the user data, content of their documents folder and their pictures folder and their music folder and their videos folder. I'm going to copy all those contents out. I'm going to copy their user profile settings, those operating system settings that are stored in a profile file. I'm going to copy that off to a separate location. I am then going to install a brand new Windows 10 operating system. Again, could be on the same hardware, could be on a completely new set of hardware. That being said, when a brand spanking new operating system gets installed with all the old stuff wiped out or on a brand spanking new hardware platform, we do not get to keep those applications. Those applications that we had in the old system are not carried over, so we're going to have to reinstall or lose certain applications. Might be a good time to do an upgrade for an application. We get a brand new operating system in the boot, so good old Windows 10 is going to give us that lovely operating system to kind of carry everything on, and then we'll migrate or copy those user data settings into the new operating system. We'll migrate those user data components into the new operating system as well. Boom. When the user comes and starts using that platform, they have all their data, they have all their chosen settings right there on the Windows 10 platform. It feels like home. So it feels like they are back in their platform. Again, the idea being that we want to make that transition to the new operating system as easy as possible. The problem with that clean install migration, among the various problems, might be that you lose those apps and you have to go through the process of reinstalling them. So a lot of folks find that if you are working on a system and you want to keep those applications, you're stuck using an upgrade if you are working in an environment where a valid upgrade path exists, meaning Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 8.1 to get to Windows 10. On the other hand, if you can afford doing a complete reinstall of some of those apps, a clean install of Windows 10 might get you a cleaner starting point. Let's say it that way. So what are the tools? What do we have in our bag to be able to allow us to accomplish these tasks? If we are going to be doing the migration side instead of the upgrade side, well, the upgrade side doesn't require any special tools. You got the Windows setup, you're covered. You run Windows setup, you do your upgrade, you're done. And that's all there is to the upgrade side. The migration side, we've got some choices. So there are some tools that we want to be aware of as far as doing this. A, if we are doing a single computer, or 5, or maybe 10 computers, and we want to do them possibly one at a time, there is now a new tool for doing that. The old tool, in the old school Windows 7 days, Windows Vista days, was called Windows Easy Transfer, WET. And again, like I said, Microsoft decided, well, this go around, we're not going to create our own tool for doing this. We're going to use someone else's. We're going to let them who have a fairly decent tool out there get a little foot in. They've got a tool already made. They're going to make this an easy transfer for you. So Microsoft coordinated with LapLink to allow for their product, PC Mover, to be the new transfer tool for single or 5 or 6 transfer PCs. You do it one at a time. The Express edition of PC Mover is free. It is accessible to you guys on the web. There is a link that I'll be giving you guys a little bit later that does this. But that link allows you to download the PC Mover installer, the free Express edition, and then put it. Now the trick is, it will allow you to migrate user data. It will allow you to migrate user operating system settings, just like good old Windows Easy Transfer used to do. The free Express edition is great for a single user, great for an individual computer transfer, but it is not going to transfer your applications. It's not going to transfer your applications. It's not going to have many features beyond just transfer the user data and transfer the user settings. However, they do have a professional edition, which they readily advertise in the Express edition, that will take those applications and reinstall them on your target new system. They will also open an image and allow you to restore into or through imaging. So PC Mover has a series of features in their product that go beyond what your standard transition will do. Again, remember, migration can go all the way back to Windows XP, specifically and especially with the PC Mover tool. You can install the PC Mover on the Windows XP platform, install the PC Mover tool on the Windows 10 platform, bring them up on the same network. They will communicate with each other. You'll identify the user data that you want to transfer. Boom, it starts transferring that stuff across, and you're good to go. So it's a fairly robust little tool that does its job and has the expansion, has the upgrade capability. If you want to go with more features, there's a licensing cost to it. But the free edition does the basic migration job flawlessly. It does a great job of making that happen. Now, again, that's for a single computer, individual computers, 5 or 6 at a time. You can do this, but you're not going to be very happy if you're trying to do an enterprise-wide deployment of Windows 10 and migrating user data with PC Mover. It's just not going to be an option for you. Instead, we have a tried and true, reliable platform for transitioning that content, and that is the UserState migration tool. This is an enterprise-capable, network-wide deployment tool that is scriptable, automatable. It will grab user data, user settings. It'll even grab some application settings, but no applications. Again, be aware, the user state migration tool is for migrating user state and user data. It will not migrate applications. Cool part, though, is it is free. It is available for free. You can access and use this guy. It is part of the Windows administrative toolkit. I've got a link later on that will actually give you guys the link to download that toolkit. You can install that UserState migration tool on a platform. It's actually an executable, 2 executables to be precise. There is an executable called scan state that is going to read all of the user data to a specific directory, store all the data, store all the user settings in that directory, hopefully not on the existing system, which would be wiped out if you're about to do a complete reinstall, but in a network location is certainly a possible option. And then load state will read that migration data out of that directory and plop it down on your target system. So again, the UserState migration tool is actually 2 executables that are going to provide that action of reading the content off of the drive and storing it somewhere, and then reading that stored data back onto your target drive. So again, these are the set of tools that you're going to be using in a larger enterprise environment to be able to do that migration and make that happen. So let me show you the money. Let me show you how this works. There are 2 virtual machines that I've got set up here. Let me go ahead and hit my Alt-Tab. This is my Windows 8 machine. The Windows 8 machine, I've gone ahead and created a couple users here. I have a user currently. This is my migrate me user. I also have here a migrate me 2. Both of these are just standard users with the standard Microsoft password. To be able to get us in. They have a lovely set of screen settings, wonderful yellow screen wallpaper. I've got a to-do list on each one, their desktop, and it actually has migrate me to's to-do list, get migrated to. So I've got both of these guys ready for migration. They got some content on their desktop that I want to show moving across. And I also went ahead and installed the LapLink PC Mover, the Express Edition on this puppy. Now, I also have, in this environment, a Windows 10 platform. The Windows 10 platform that I have here is called Richie Dev. And the Richie Dev platform, I am logged in with my Microsoft account. Now, the trick with these tools, whether it's the LapLink PC Mover Express or whether it's UserState migration tool, is that you have to run them with an administrative account. So you can't just go in and run this as migrate me. You actually have to have an administrative account that's going to be able to connect to these machines and run these commands. And I have that here in my migration Windows 8 machine in an account known as Test Morgan. So I've got a Test Morgan account here that's going to be administrative on this system. And it's going to have the permissions necessary to capture everything. And again, I've got that LapLink Mover Express for personal use, the free edition, already installed. I'm going to go ahead and crank that puppy up over here on the Windows 8 machine. That will allow me to be able to run and capture content on this machine. Now, while it's coming up over here, I'm also going to go ahead and start it up on my Windows 10 machine. This tool has to be running on both your old machine and your new machine at the same time. These 2 machines must be on the same network. So they must be able to communicate with each other so that we can actually have that data transfer from the older machine to the newer machine. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Next. Of course, you go through the pre-transfer checklist. Make sure to download and print the complete user guide. If you want to transfer applications, you have to upgrade. Remember, this is the Express Edition. We're not transferring applications. User data, user settings, that's it. The laptops need to be plugged in. This could take a while. We don't want battery power to die and have the transfer fail. We also want screensavers and hibernation turned off. This should take a while. We don't want hibernation to take this off of active. So we want to make sure it's continuing to run. I'm going to hit next, and it's going to go ahead and crank up the tool. Say, okay, welcome to the PC mover. We're going to do a PC to PC transfer. That's our only option in this case. Can't go to an image. Again, this is the free Express edition. I'm going to go ahead and hit next, and it's going to ask me, are you on the old computer or the new computer? Well, in this case, I'm going to be on the old computer. So I'm going to prepare this computer first. Selecting the old computer, I'll hit next. Also note they have free transfer service. You can give them a call if they need if you need anything, they can help you out. They also have a website where they'll be able to help you out if you have anything. Now, they give me a little, hey, select your connection method. In this case, I am on a wired network. I could be Wi-Fi, as long as we have connectivity to the other machine. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and indicate a Wi-Fi. Now, if I had an Ethernet cable, basically it's a crossover cable between the two PCs, I could do that. Again, remember, this is a single PC transfer. So a crossover cable between the two is fine. This is that option I was talking about earlier, that USB cable that has a little node. This is a special lap link cable. You can't just go buy a USB-A to USB-A cable. It's got to have this little node in the middle. It does a little tiny crossover functionality that allows for those USB cables. And you can go buy that cable if you wanted to. And then plug in the USB cable on one side. Now, beware, you are going to be restricted on transfer speed based upon the speed of the USB ports you use. But that's an option. For us, we're going to go ahead and do it across the network. We've got a network up. We're connected to both sides, so we're going to go with that Wi-Fi or wired network. All right, and now it's analyzing the PCs. And it's going through and scanning everything and checking to make sure we got everything necessary. And it's then going to make that distinction, say, oh, you want to make some transfers. You may need to go over to the other machine and start the process of setting that one up. So I'm going to go over here while he's thinking. And I'm going to hit the next button on this guy. It's going to go ahead and crank up the PC Mover Express over here. I'm going to be doing a PC to PC transfer. That is correct. I want this to be my new computer. I'm going to prepare this computer second. Now, I'm kind of jumping the gun, but if I go ahead and select this is a Windows 8.1 or later, specifically this is a Windows 10 platform, I'll hit next. It'll say, okay, please enter the following information. Internet connectivity is required to register. A little registration is going to be done here. I'll give it a name, Richie, email address, rmorgan@nhgeorgia.com. And I'm using this in a Wi-Fi or wired connection. Again, we got other options there, but I'm using this in a Wi-Fi or wired connection to make this happen. Now, it's going to start listening. Let's locate your old computer. Now, it has to have that in-progress network transfer, so I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready for this guy yet. But what will happen is, when it's finished doing its analysis, it'll indicate that it's ready to do that transfer, and I'll then be able to indicate I want to use Richie 8.1 to do this. Now, it seems it's going to have a little bit of time, need a little bit of time to be able to get these things ready. Even with just a tiny user account, it's scanning a lot of stuff to be able to transfer content over to this new PC, which I can then indicate, you know what, I really don't need that. Okay, so go to the new computer to proceed. I'm ready to go. My new computer, it already has the name. It says, oh, hey, we just recognized Richie 8.1 is ready. It says, hey, we already found him. He's out there on the network ready to go. So I'll hit next. It's then going to start transferring that content. It's going to transfer the analysis that it had initially. What did it analyze? What did it grab as far as the content that was there? And again, it's transferring those user settings and user data components as well over to my Windows 10 system, so that once it's done, I will be able to access this Richie Dev system as migrate me. or migrate me to. Now I'm hoping that I'll be able to show you guys migrate me to with the UserState migration tool. Now while this guy is running, I am running out of time here, so I want to make sure I get some of this UserState migration into play. The UserState migration tool is going to provide another way of doing kind of the same stuff. Again, this guy is working hot and heavy, making sure we do that transfer. I'll leave that up over there. The UserState migration tool, again, is a command line tool. The trick with UserState migration tool is that you have to have the appropriate command line options. Now, I've got a link for the UserState migration tool syntax here. And again, that's going to show up in the slides a little bit later on as well, but you guys can certainly get that as part of the video. That bit.ly links, by the way, if you're not already familiar, bit.ly links are case sensitive. So this is bit.ly/cap-u, cap-s, cap-m, cap-t, cap-s, yntax, cap-links. And that is the Microsoft documentation page for accessing the UserState migration tool syntax context. Let me see if it'll let me get out here with Internet Explorer real quick. A lot going on with these tiny little VMs. Okay. Here we go. So this is the TechNet article on UserState migration tool syntax. And again, they give you a little bit of information about the scan state. As mentioned earlier, the UserState migration tool should actually be referred to as the UserState migration tools, because there are two command line tools to use. Scan state is going to capture your user data and put it somewhere, and load state will read that captured user data and put it on your target machine. That's his job. They give you a nice little breakdown about using scan state here, which gives you basically the syntax before you begin, some things you want to be aware of, and it walks you through the syntax of using scan state, all the various options you could apply and how they apply, what they are possible of doing. They even give you a couple of really good examples. So if you're going to use a scan state to generate what is referred to as a config.xml, you can do so. There are a series of XML files which tell scan state what to get, what application settings to grab, what document settings or document locations to grab. If you're going with the default user directories, user, documents, video, music, whatever, then the standard MIG-docs XML is fine. If you need to modify those directories and indicate other user directories that are going to be involved, you go and edit that MIG-docs.xml. Now, the trick with this is it's not already on your system. You're going to have to go download it and install it. This is the administrative kit that includes that. When you run it, you have the option of installing several administrative kit components. There are a bucket load of them. The only one I really installed here is the UserState migration tool components. Now, these guys are found in the program files, x86, Windows kits, 10 directory. Specifically, I'm using the assessment and deployment kit UserState migration tool, and we've got the option for working in a 32-bit or a 64-bit platform that we could use. In this case, I'm going to be using the 64-bit because that's what my VM is set up as, to allow me to be able to do some work. And again, it's still running its little installer. To make this work, UserState migration tool requires an administrative command prompt. Now, this two phases here. A, I'm logged in as a user who has administrative rights on the system. B, I need to make sure I start my command prompt, run as administrator. Run as administrator has taken on a new meaning since previous versions of Windows. In previous versions of Windows, it actually logged in as a user named administrator. You had to have the appropriate password. Now, all it really does is it satisfies the user account control security protections ahead of time, which allows me to be able to access files that normally I wouldn't have access to. I'm elevated ahead of time. But I'm going to choose to run as administrator on that command prompt. User account control is asking, are you sure? I'm pretty sure. Yes, please. And in this, I'm going to need to go to the appropriate directory. In this case, the directory is C, program files, x86, blah, 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 blah. It's a lovely long lovely long path. So I'll copy that, come back over here, and paste. I need some quotation marks around this guy. There we go. So now I'm in that directory. And again, that directory, just like your standard directory that you would get, you could go to the location, C drive, program files, x86. Windows kits, 10, assessment and deployment, UserState migration tool, and there are my 3 tool sets. I've got the good old 32-bit x86 tool set, which has my scan state and my load state right there. I have my 64-bit AMD 64 platform architecture, pardon me, that will allow me to be able to use scan state and load state. Both of them are there as well. And we also have those XML files, MIG app and MIG store, MIG user. So we've got a couple of good XML in there in MIG docs. Those are those XMLs that we can go in and edit if we ever needed to change what we're grabbing. And we also have in here, if we have any ARM 64, those good old ARM core components, these guys are compiled for that, to be able to migrate that content. It's a little separate, a little different setup though, for our migrating that ARM stuff. But we do have AMD 64, which is where I am here. In the AMD 64, I'm going to need to make sure I can access my migrate location. Now, over on Richie Dev, we'll notice the OneDrive has been detected enabled. Please select the data folders to transfer to the OneDrive folder. I'm going to go ahead and choose documents, just for the sake of having something. And next. Says, okay, so what do I want to do? We're going to abandon UserState migration tool for a second. Going to leave it as is. We're going to come over here and take a look at the PC mover side. Again, he still thinks he's working, but on the new computer, we're making a few decisions. We have the option of going in and choosing certain user accounts. Attention, review this guy. I don't want to transfer Test Morgan. Don't need that guy. I do want to transfer Migrate Me, which is a limited user. I'm going to take care of Migrate Me 2 in another location. So these are the users on the old computer, and the users as it will transfer in the new computer. If I want to transfer to a different user or not transfer at all, I get to select the user and choose Edit User. So I'm going to go to Test Morgan, Edit User, and I'm going to indicate, let's not transfer Test Morgan. Thank you. I'm going to go to Migrate Me 2 and Edit User and say, you know what, let's not migrate Me 2. I'll take care of him with UserState migration. I'm just going to take Migrate Me and move him over to my location. Now, I also have all users that I can take a look at. Administrator, I'm not going to be transferring. Guest, I'm not going to be transferring. Default, I could actually choose not to transfer that default user if I wanted to as well. Let's just edit that. So you know what, let's not transfer that default. I got other default options I'm happy with. So I'm just going to transfer Migrate Me. None of the rest of that surrounding stuff. I feel good with that. I also have the ability to do some file filtering. Do I need temporary files? No thanks. No backup files. If I wanted to include Office files, you know, those standard document, XLS, PowerPoints, I could go ahead and include those too. I can add in other file types that I may want to transfer. Not really anything I want to make use of at the moment. I also have drive selections, which I can go and say, all right, anything on the C drive goes to the new C drive, or I could take and put it in a different location. So you know what, I really want to edit that and put it over on a G drive or an H drive. And currently on my new computer, all I have is a C drive, so don't really have anything that I want to transfer over there. And then there are also some folder filters, which I can go in. I'm not taking Migrate Me To, I'm not taking Test Morgan. I'm only taking the Migrate Me, app data, contacts, desktop documents, links, music, pictures, all of the stuff that I've got here. I can go in and choose what I want to transfer and keep or remove certain files that I don't need. There are also 19 gigabytes of C drive data, which is going to be getting some program data and some Windows content that I may want to transfer over. And again, it's only capturing the Windows content that is possibly application specific, in this case System32, SysWow, 64, web content. Again, some of that stuff I'm not going to need. So for now, I'm not going to choose that C drive stuff at all. I really just want the Migrate Me user content in this case. So I'll go ahead and hit Next, and it'll start the transfer. It'll say, okay, we're now moving Migrate Me. The user Migrate Me is going to be moved over. You should be good to go. Again, while that guy is working, I'm going to come back over here. Let's keep going with that UserState migration tool example. On my drive, and actually I didn't check this. Let me verify here. On my Richie Dev drive, I have a folder called Migrate. And that Migrate folder currently has a USMT UserState Migration Tool directory, which I need to get rid of because that's from practicing last night. So no UserState migration content here. But this is the network path that I want to go to, the Richie Dev Migrate directory. So let me go back over here. Still kind of working on it. Minimize this guy. And let's take a look at this. I need to net use the Richie Dev Migrate location as the I drive. And actually, let me check this just to make sure. Yep, I drive is not currently mapped. So I'm going to go ahead and map it with this command. Let's see. Local device name is already in use. It does seem to have an I drive already mapped. Good. So that means that I can do this command without having any problems. Scan state. Now, note the command line has several options I can supply. In this case, I am using as input the migrate docs XML file that's in the directory. I'm using as input the migrate apps XML file. This tells me what application data that I need to grab and what document folders I want to grab. Then I am saying put all of that over on my I drive, which is mapped over here to this migrate directory, and I want to exclude, this is UE, or user exclude, the Richie81 Migrate Me user. So do not grab Richie81 Migrate Me. I only need Migrate Me To. I think it's going to try and grab the test user as well, but we'll just go with it. And I'm specifying the versioning that I want to supply here, version 5 in this case. So scan state is going to run this command, grab that data, and transfer it over. Let's go ahead and plop that down in and have it run. It's logging information out to the scan state log file, starting that migration process. And again, it's going to check on all the user data, all the document folders for the users on the system. The benefit here, you could take a file like this and script it. Put a little bit more decision making here about checking to see if the I drive is available and using it or not, running the scan state, And then once you got that scan state run, once all that data is transferred over, and it looks like I've got my user state migration tool folder back, and it will contain appropriate user state migration tool migration data when it's done, I will then end up running that load state option to be able to get this guy happy. Now let me check my lap link. We've got this. All right. It says currently it's ready to transfer. Depending upon the speed of the connection, the hardware connection, this could take approximately 1 hour. Not really. Only 813 files, 24 megabytes of actual data. So it's transferring the migrate me content on over. Creating the user, migrating the profile over, and then it'll be done. Again, this guy over here, we hardly even have to touch him again. Once we get the source PC up to a certain point, this lap link we don't ever have to touch again. It's the one that's actually on the target machine that runs the show. And it's transferring that content over for that user. Again, I'm going to go ahead and take these guys out of the way. And let's concentrate on that user state migration tool. So this guy, gathering data for migrate me. It's also grabbing that test user that I had earlier. Migrate me is 100% done. That test user is being grabbed, one of 2 of 3, about 60% done. All of this being transferred over to my target machine across the network, making it real easy then, once all of that stuff gets there, to be able to bring it back to life for that target user. Now, I believe slowly but surely getting done. 26 megs for transferring registry settings for migrate me. And then we're grabbing that last, this computer, additional content with the user state migration tool. Who's going to finish first? In testing, I found that the user state migration tool ran rather quickly. Now, here's a little note. The user state migration tool has an interesting, and there it is, lap link finished. User state migration tool has an interesting feature set that was added in the user state migration tool round 4, the revision for the 4th edition of that guy, and it has what is called a hard link migration option. Now, the hard link migration is really slick in that it will make use of a lesser known file feature as long as you are migrating your data on the same drive to a separate directory. So if you're just taking these out to a protected directory on the same drive, it'll do hard link migration, and what might take 30 minutes, an hour, 3 hours to do can take a matter of minutes. It can go extremely fast if you're doing hard link migration. But the trick is hard link migration only works on the same drive, just to a separate directory, to maybe a protected directory. But here we have our transfer success with scan state done, and we have our lap link transfer. Now, when the lap link transfer is done, it is done. Everything has been loaded, automatically put in. It has a restart computer automatically option that you can choose to restart. There is also an option for uploading non-identified application selection data. So basically it's saying, hey, let me phone home and tell them how we did. And I'm going to uncheck that as well just because I don't have time. We hit finish, and the migrate me user has been transferred. Now, this also, thanks to scan state, I've got all of my data in my USMT directory, and there's my USMT MIG file, which has all of my user data transferred for migrate me to, the test user, and the content from this computer. And if I wanted to load that, now I'm going to have to crank up my USMT command here to run load state. And the load state is going to be run to be able to load those users in. Now, before I go too much further, though, let me hop over to this PC. users, and you'll notice there is migrate me. The migrate me user has been migrated into this location. Again, I'm an administrator, so give me the rights and let me get in there. But the migrate me data has been transferred over, and on the migrate me user's desktop, there is the to-do list. Get migrated was successfully migrated over. Now the data, as well as some of the user settings and selections, let me see if I can illustrate some of that for us. I want to go over here again on Windows 10. Lovely start menu now instead of the start screen. And I am going to swap users. I want to say, you know what, I don't want to be Richard Morgan. I want to sign out right quick. Well, actually, I'll just lock. It'll lock that system. Actually, that's not what I wanted exactly, but let me try this. Really? Now that's not good news, is it? Let's try one more. Well, that's supposed to be the password. Well, I'm out of time anyways. Now it's going to give me that block, and it's not going to work. What I wanted to show you was the login process, and that because migrate me was actually migrated, we end up with the ability to log in on my dev machine as migrate me. So we'll do this. Give it a quick restart. And the migrate me user will be available. Still going. The wonders of a virtual machine. Come on. Go virtual machine. Which will grant us the ability to be able to get in there and log in with that migrated user. Again, the concept being I want to be able to have those users have a familiar interface, a welcome, hey, this is familiar to me. When they get from old machine to new machine, when they get from old OS to new OS, we want to be able to grant them that ability. That being said, those are the little demonstrations we had for you. PC Mover and UserState Migration Tool. The next steps, they're the links that I was going to give you guys. The first one is the link for the PC Mover Express download. You guys can grab that from the pcmoverfree.azurewebsites.net. That, again, is a free download if you're going to be using the Express edition that does the basic transfer one machine to another. No applications, just user data. There is the link for the Windows Assessment and Deployment Kit for Windows 10, WIN10 ADK. Again, I bit.ly'd it. Sorry, I have a sickness. I bit.ly everything. So it is case sensitive, capital WIN10, cap A, cap D, cap K. If you are interested in installing, configuring, deploying, managing Windows 10, Microsoft has put together some courses. Course 20697-1 and 20697-2 are your Windows 10, basically the Windows 10 management classes. The exam that goes along with these guys, exam 7069, configuring Windows devices, is going to be available for you guys if you want to test out and obtain the certification of Microsoft Specialist for Windows configuration, configuring Windows devices. So definitely worth looking into if you are interested. Again, those are some good courses. You may want to talk to a New Horizons representative who will be happy to hook you up with those courses, point you in the right direction. Should you guys have any questions, we've got about 4 minutes remaining in the webinar. You guys are welcome to pop those into the questions area, and those will become visible to me. I'll be happy to answer whatever I can. Other than that, I am done. Thank you for attending our event today. I hope you guys got some useful information about migrating user data in Windows 10. Hopefully the demos didn't blow up too bad. You guys got a little bit out of them. But again, if you guys have any questions, you guys are welcome to ask. Other than that, I believe we are done.
Hey, yeah, Richie, it looks like there's a couple questions here, so I'll go ahead and relay those to you. It says,
okay, great.
What difficulties have you encountered with the new USMT going from Windows 7 machine to Windows 10 machine, if any?
Some of the difficulties. Okay, so utilizing USMT from separate machines, you do have that transfer speed, and it is completely dependent upon your network. In most cases, as far as utilizing that USMT on the same machine, which is in essence a clean install, you can use those hard link migration options, which immensely improves it. The other difficulty being, if you're not familiar with command line, the scan state and load state commands have a bevy of command line options, and you really got to pay attention to the command line options you're using. But again, if you're familiar with command line, there's not really that much of a learning curve then. They're just using the options that are available. Read the documentation, you should be good to go.
Awesome.
Hopefully that was what you're looking for there, Nick.
Next question was, does the drive on the target machine have to have its drive shared in order to map it?
Good question. Anytime you're accessing a drive across the network, that drive does have to have a shared folder on it. So if you're going to be accessing that across the network, there has to be a shared folder. If you're not going to be using a shared folder, you also have the option, by the way, with scan state and load state to use a USB connected drive. So if you have an external drive, you can just plug that guy in and use the USB drive. That's certainly an option as well. But again, if you are accessing the target machine across the network, it does have to have a shared folder. Beware, the target machine doesn't have to have the shared folder. You could go to a third machine. You could have a server in the network that has a shared folder, scan state up to that server's shared folder, and then from your target machine, load state from that server shared folder. That's an option as well. So there has to be a shared folder somewhere if you're going to be using the network for transfer, but it doesn't have to be on the target machine. It could be on a server machine if necessary. Again, hopefully that answered your question there, Frederick.
Awesome. Next one, can you go from 32-bit operating system to a 64-bit?
Great question. Yes. Remember, all we're transferring is user profile, user content. We're not actually transferring applications when we're utilizing both of these tools. And that means it's just data files. 32-bit versus 64-bit makes no difference for the data files to be used and consumed. If it were, and again, if we were using the PC Mover upgraded edition, which actually transferred applications, then the architecture would play into your decision. But because we're not worrying about transferring these applications, we're just getting user data and user settings, the 32-bit, 64-bit argument doesn't even come into it.
Okay, and then one last quick question. Can you upgrade from Windows 7 Pro to Windows 10 Enterprise, or must you go from Enterprise to Enterprise?
Oh, that's a great question, Thomas. The upgrade in that case from a Enterprise Edition platform to an Enterprise Edition platform is kind of the requirement. You've got to stay within that Enterprise licensing. The Pro Edition, you do have the option of upgrading from Pro to Pro or from Pro to otherwise, but the licensing is tricky when it goes into the enterprise realm, and I think that's why you're asking that question, that there is that sneaking suspicion that Microsoft won't let you go from anything else to enterprise, and you're not far off.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Richie. I think we're out of time right now, so it's been the hour, so I want to thank you and thank everyone for taking time to out of their day to be on the webinar. And if you have any question that we're unable to get to, you can go ahead and send me an email just by replying to the link for the webinar today or the email with the link on it for the webinar today, and I can relay those questions to Richie, and we can get those answered for you. So thank you, Richie, very much for your time today, and thank you everyone for attending.
You're very welcome. Thank you.